Hey everyone, this is LYS from Laddering Your Success, and you're listening to the LYS Podcast.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome one and all to Edu-Steps, the online mentoring podcast powered by Laddering Your Success. I'm LYS, co-founder of Laddering Your Success, and I'm honored to be joined, as always, by my fellow co-founder and LYS creator, Festus Samoye. Festus, how you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm doing really well. It's good to be back. All things considered, I'm doing really well. It's good to be back. Thank you.
Awesome. We're also blessed to be joined once again by the future Doctor of Education, Jamark Crawford. Jamark, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing all right. Happy to be here. Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump right into today's topic. Today's topic is avoiding the back-to-school burnout. What could go wrong? All right. As of the date of this podcast, today is August 11th. So that means starting tomorrow on till about September, if it hasn't already been, your kids or your nephews and nieces and nephews, cousins, whoever, they'll start that process of coming back to school. So that means the traffic is going to get a little bit worse because we got to deal with the buses and then kids will be crossing the street all slow. We got to deal with the parents who are going to be scratching to get their kids back on time. So we're going to go back into everyone being out the house essentially, right? Except for those parents who work from home. So we're going to talk about some different things as far as back to school burnout and basically avoiding the back to school burnout and some of those habits that we may have created or started not realizing we started them and how they can affect our families, right? First thing we're going to talk about is the pressure to succeed, the pressure to succeed. So a lot of times it can be kind of overwhelming for some kids and parents, the need to succeed academically and socially. A lot of times this can lead to stress and burnout. So my question for everyone is, how does the pressure to achieve perfection affect children's mental and emotional well-being?
Well, I think first and foremost, it comes down to defining what that looks like. I think a lot of, parents, first generation immigrants in particular, have this, just this tremendous drive where, they're beating the kids, they're all kind of stuff to just like, you got to make it. And it's like, well, make what? You know what I mean? And I don't think sometimes that success is really defined for these kids enough. Like, what does it mean? You know what I mean? And, you get into sociology and honor culture and different kind of things like that. Like, are you talking about like make you proud? Is that what success is? Or are you saying certain accomplishments? Is that what success is? So there's just a number of things that I think if we sat down and defined it for kids, that would take a lot of pressure off. And it take a lot of pressure off for parents too. I think parents sometimes assuming your kid knows what you're talking about at all. That's a big thing. To me, as a parent, I tried my best to expose my kids and also tell them about what is going on. I noticed this when they were literally, 1 and 2 years old, is that if I told them what was going to happen, there would usually be a much better outcome. So if we were driving and say, hey man, you guys are going to go to grandma's house, and when we're at grandma's house, XYZ is going to happen. There's going to be Thanksgiving. You're going to see a lot of family. Just their behavior was totally different than if we just got there and I opened the door and let them out. So I think the same thing is true of like life and success.
Absolutely, totally.
Yeah. Can you frame that question for me one more time?
Sure. How does the pressure to achieve perfection affect children's mental and emotional well-being?
I think there could be positive and negative impacts. I think a positive impact will be motivation and achievement. The pressure to, succeed can motivate them to work hard, set goals, and achieve their full potential, which will translate into skill development and preparation for the future. School success correlates with future opportunities. And then there's negative impacts. The negative impacts will be, mental health issues, where that excessive pressure can lead to anxiety, depression, other mental health problems, as well as physical health problems. Burnout, which is the topic of today's discussion, and unhealthy competition. where it can hurt their, their self-esteem. And then also it could lead to a loss of interest in learning. So it's just important just for parents to consider, the impact of pressure is going to vary from child to child, but a healthy balance is definitely key.
Absolutely, man. I think, the strong emphasis on burnout is very, very true. When I think about the pressure to achieve perfection, one of the things that I thought about was, I think, Festus, you did a really good job of asking, what does that look like? And a lot of times, especially if you have a parent that may have come from a different background, come from a different country, perfection could be, hey, just pass your classes. Perfection could be, come to school every day and don't be a disturbance to the class. Perfection could be straight A's, But I think one of the keys here, and we can slowly start to go into solutions, is just open communication. I think, Festus, again, you mentioned, with your children, whenever you told them what the outcome was going to be, that almost led to like completion of whatever it is they were asking you to do. And that's a big part of just like life, when you think about some portions in the Bible, they'll talk about conditional statements. So if you do this, if this is done, this will happen. And so that doesn't happen without communication. That doesn't happen without someone talking and saying, hey, this is why I think this is the best for you. Because if this, and this happens, from everything I've seen, from my experience, this and this is going to happen, right? To where you have the parents to say, most people who get an art history degree don't do much, right? They end up just teaching art or something, unless you want to be an art teacher, that's something to think about. But I want us to talk about some solutions. What are some solutions that students and parents, we'll start with parents first, right? Because it all starts at home. What are some things that parents can do and then students can do to kind of create balance and having realistic, personalized goals so they don't have that burn? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, no, it makes sense. I think the biggest thing that parents, it's more on parents than it is on students, because the students are not really able to articulate themselves depending on their grade level. You know what I'm saying? And, if you're a parent that finds yourself constantly fighting your child, fighting over what they should and shouldn't be doing.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Ole once again. These days, many families are busy, but want personalized attention. We at Laddering Your Success understand this dilemma and have created a unique approach to help guide you and your child with personal development tools to build a life of purpose. This intimate approach is helpful for those parents that feel the need to have a focused heart-to-heart conversation deciding on the next steps after high school. We provide individual post-secondary planning, virtual customized college and career counseling, and scholarship guidance and planning. Our one-on-one sessions are tailored to each individual student to maximize their potential in the post-secondary realm. With our guidance, your child will be able to make their dreams a reality. Don't wait. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to business on this podcast.
One thing I would really ask, are you having dialogue or are you just telling them what to do? I think that's one of the things is that, kids don't know, and I, it's funny because, we went on this vacation and my kids were, they were so excited. And I was thinking, when I grew up, when I was growing up, the first time I heard the word vacation, I was like, what's that? You know what I'm saying? And then people was like, you take money and but basically you go somewhere and you get like a hotel and, you go and you do stuff. I was like, wait, so you spend money that you made at a place that's not your home on food that you're not gonna put in your fridge. Like, it just was it was the most foreign concept in the world to me. Like, it didn't make any sense to me at the time. And it's funny because, again, now my kids are like, oh, daddy, we're gonna beach house hotel and all this stuff. I'm thinking, wow, that's interesting. That their perception of the world is going to be totally different than mine. And mine's had to shift to accommodate for theirs and also understand that my perception is different. So as I explain things to them, they should understand where I'm coming from and vice versa. But I need to explain things in a way that they could understand where I'm coming from. So it's not an argument. It's, hey, listen, when daddy was growing up, daddy didn't have X, Y, Z. So, we're going to enjoy this, but at the same time, there's other people who don't, that type of situation. But also being mindful that you could push low expectations onto your child. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big thing is that, the parent is ultimately the most responsible for stewarding those outcomes.
Thing for the parents, piggybacking off of what Festus started with, definitely that open communication, having those regular conversations about school and academics and challenges they may be facing, encouraging your kids to just express their feelings about their workload, the expectations that are placed on them by the parents, the student and the teacher as well. And then, parents setting realistic goals, using SMART goals would definitely help based on, if your child or if you work with the teachers to kind of identify his strengths and weakness, his or her strengths and weaknesses in, certain subjects. So you can kind of know what to work with the kid on when you're setting these goals. And then, time management and prioritization, working with the kid to create a schedule and set routines that include, specific time for academics as well as extracurricular activities, including relaxation. That goes to that part of balance. I think that's going to come from the parent modeling a healthy balance, where they made time for work, leisure, and self-care. The parents can also help and prevent the burnout by encouraging, a growth mindset, emphasizing the importance of learning and effort, over just getting something just like really, really quick. Help them to see their mistakes as opportunity for growth. And also parents, I feel like we need to limit comparisons. Let's not compare their accomplishments to their siblings and other children, because we don't want to promote, negative self-esteem thoughts and things of that nature. We want to lift them up. So those are just, my thoughts on that, of what parents can do to contribute to the lack of burnout and creating healthy balance.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Ole. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that even though the cost of college can be daunting, the LYS Scholarship Guide ebook can assist you in realizing your dreams. You can identify and apply for scholarships using the information, advice, and resources in our comprehensive guide. Also, we've provided a template for a successful scholarship essay to help you stand out from the crowd. Don't allow student loan debt to control you. Get your copy of the LYS Scholarship Guide ebook right away to take charge of your destiny. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to that fire conversation.
So thank you both. One of the things I thought about, and huge shout out to the one, the only, the great one, Daniel Hill. How you doing today, my good sir?
Man, I'm good. What's up, you guys? What's cracking?
Not much, man. We're over here talking about how to avoid burnout. And so to both of you guys' point, one of the things I thought about is, all right, we talked about stress relieving, things we can do for stress relief, things we can do for mental health, mental wellness. I recently, just through advice from a good friend, I went and bought some sketchbooks and I started sketching. And I made a list of all the things that I want to do just to relax, that kind of calm me. And I was going to say one day a month, I'm going to do one of these things, whether if it's going to the driving range, playing basketball, going to an Astros game, sketching, a day of sketching, taking a class on going to the museum to look at art, going to a gallery, and all of those things. And as we were talking, I was thinking about a kid in high school right now, or a kid who's just going off to community college, or a kid who's going off to college. And maybe they're going back and forth from home to school. And at home, either they're at or below the poverty level, they're a child of immigrants. And when you start bringing things like this up to your parents, if I know when I was in high school and I would have said things like, Dad, I'm going to take a mental health day, or Dad, I'm just going to take some time to do something that I love, something that I want to do. I can see the look already that he'd give me, the look of confusion and the look of, if you don't get out of my face with that, right? And I tend to think about where a lot of our kids are that understand these things, but also understand that at home their parents just don't see, they just don't see that. And I guess my question for us is, what does that kid do? Does that kid find those places that are conducive for them, for their growth? Because I'm learning so much more now that a lot of who you become as an adult, a lot of that is dependent on what happens to you as a young person. And so for these young kids, are they, is it, well, I was about to say, is it be no do? It is be no do, right? The knowing portion of be no do is, where are my resources and how do I get access to them? So it's just going out looking for the community centers, looking for those groups that are involved in the things that you're involved in, and going out and doing those things. Are you having those people around you who you trust, who pour into you like you pour into them, right? One of the key principles in LYS is be a friend and make friends. So do you have people around you who are like-minded in that regard, who you can kind of go to get that advice to help you grow? I want to get you guys' thoughts on that, because I think that's a real life situation that a lot of kids are dealing with, and they just don't know where to go. They don't know how to deal with it.
Can you frame the question one more time?
So what are some things that you always ask me to rephrase. I can't. My brain is hurting whatever you do.
Well, nah, it's because you get in the zone and you're elaborating on it, and you go into depth. So then, when it's time for us to answer the question, I just need to know what I need to respond to, because you said a lot of good stuff.
So when
he does be doing that, dog.
But he's right. I do be going in. He's right. I do be going in.
It's both of y'all so funny, because it's like when Olay starts, I'll be like, okay, I need to listen to the last part.
Hey, that's real. I was over here like, what he went so deep.
So what, for the kid who's got it tough, for the kid who's got it bad, how do they go out, and how do they get that mental clarity? How do they go out and fill that void that they're not getting at home, when everything at home is telling them not to do it, right?
So I'll kick off. The first thing is understand that you're in a discovery process, right? In order to discover something, you got to remain curious, you got to remain open, and you just got to remain active in that process. Whereas sometimes I think, especially, most people, by the time they hit the age of 12, they feel like they got the world figured out already. That kind of preteen, I know what it's about, especially 12, 13, 14, they think they got the whole world mapped out. And it's like, man, life is so much bigger than that. You know what I mean? And so I think just understanding you're in the discovery process, and you're also in a development process, understanding that you need more tools, you need more skills to continue to grow. I think one of the biggest mistakes, and this is probably, if there's a kid hearing this, you're trying to figure your parent out and you're like, why are my parents this way? They probably stopped growing at some point. They're probably a 14-year-old in a 40-year-old body. At some point, they probably were arrested in their development. And so try not to be arrested in your development so you can maximize your skill set, and then ultimately maximize the opportunities that life brings you.
I think for those kiddos that are in that situation that you discussed, Olay, I think that they can, hopefully their schools have after school programs and clubs, something that may relate to their interests, whether it's sports or whether it's dance or whether it's just a chess club or a book reading club, so they can have that safe space to kind of escape towards something that are their interests. Hopefully within their community, there are, community centers or youth organizations that they may attend, but again, that calls for their parents' approval to be able to do those certain things. And if they, have, depending on their religious organizations, like I know we went to church a lot and we had activities at church, ushers, choir, and things of that nature, but the opportunity to be around others that can be like-minded in certain areas of your interests and things of that nature. So I would say those, but more so for the parents, I feel like it's important for us as adults to continue to be lifelong learners, because one of the things that you was talking about, Ole, when you was framing the question for us, was that the student or the kid was coming to the parent, or in your example talking about needing a mental health day and things of that nature, and you're basically talking about the parent not going for it. And I think that's where us as adults, we need to be lifelong learners, because although we might not have had that, mental health wasn't a big thing when we were kids, right? And it's like, oh, we made it, we all right. But times change and different pressures are affecting our students currently. Because back in the day when we were growing up, or like your dad was growing up, and I said your dad all that because you used him as an example, but there wasn't social media. So there wasn't cyberbullying, and we didn't have to worry about posting pictures and how we look, and we didn't have to worry about certain things like that on the internet. Whereas these kids today do experience that. So we just need to continue to be lifelong learners in the sense of being open-minded when our children are coming to us with certain things, and not just shutting them down and being like, oh, you soft. Because when I grew up and XYZ, let's try to seek to understand their perspective and just have this open dialogue and open communication with them, so we can understand how they feel, and we can go from there and work together, so that's my bid on that.
No, very good. Thank you.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Ole. If there's one thing I love, it's something free. I'm talking free 99, un gratis. No shipping or handling fees, no gotcha fees, nothing like that. With that being said, if you're graduating soon or thinking about college or need a nudge or help to decide, then our free ebook, 10 Things to Think About Before Going to College, has a very balanced and open-minded way of presenting your next steps. It captures broad topics in a personal way by giving students an insightful, interactive, and reflective source of inspiration. It is very beneficial to be able to visualize some of the concepts after high school and apply them directly to you. We all know life, college, and career planning decision-making choices for students can be challenging, especially as they near the completion of high school. This book will provide you with a self-paced guide to your success beyond academics and into real life. Not only is it free, you can complete this book within a week. This will definitely prepare you for long-term success. To get your free copy, simply go to lys.com/students. I mentioned it was free, right? Well, if I didn't, it's free. Like, for real. Okay, back to the podcast.
So I want to get into the last point, the last kind of topic for today, and that's the danger of poor routines. So real quick, just want to talk about some of those things. For a lot of kids, they're up late into the night, which means they're rushing in the morning, inconsistent study habits. A lot of time that leads to fatigue in classroom, poor academic performance, behavior issues. A lot of kids are not only just kids, they're responsible for themselves. They're responsible for their younger brothers, their younger sisters, their younger cousins, their nieces, their nephews. So a lot of kids by the age of 15, 16 are responsible maybe for 2, 3, 4, 5 other people, right? So what happens when families don't establish consistent routines at the start of the school year? That's the question. What happens when families don't establish consistent routines at the start of the school year?
You said what happens when what? Say it one more time, bro.
What happens when families don't establish consistent routines at the start of the school year?
Shoot, the same thing that happens to us if we don't set routines as it's working out. Everything falls apart. Everything starts messing up. The kids stay up too late. Just like in teaching, you don't tell them what they got to do at the beginning of the year. If you don't have that routine, then it's just going to be trouble throughout the year. So that's what it is. Like, it's almost like when you grow up, if you don't teach your child while they're young, when they get older, trying to put in something new, it's going to be hard. It's going to be rough.
I think that the lack of that structure, if the parents don't set that structure up for their students, then they're basically setting them up for failure. But the lack of structure the students could possibly have difficulty focusing, staying on task, without those clear expectations and routines, they're going to struggle to concentrate and complete whatever academic assignments they have, which will contribute to poor academic performance. Then we have students who might procrastinate and miss deadlines. That lack of structure make it challenging for the students to like manage their time effectively, and that could lead to reduced motivation. And then it also would affect their behavior. That could increase stress and anxiety because of the lack of structure and, getting behind in class because they're turning things late. So that pressure will lead up on them or stack up on them, and that could affect their anxiety and then, acting out disruptive behavior. And so, which these things all affect the students. And then now in the middle of the school year, you have the teacher trying to have a conference with the parents, talking about these issues that they're demonstrating within class. And, sometimes the parents probably look at the kid like what's going on and get on the kid. But at the same time, if we are the adults, it is our job to set our kids up for success. So we need to do our jobs as best as we can to set those structures in place so that we can set them up for success, which means not only do we set those structures up for them to be successful, we teach them how to follow those expectations by modeling it, clearly communicating our expectations. Also, just being there and observing them. So if my expectations for my child to come home and do my homework, I'm going to sit and watch and observe. Is my child coming home, getting out their stuff, doing what they're supposed to do? Or are they coming home, going in the room, getting on the video game, getting on the iPad, watching TV? So once I observe this, then I can actually go and correct. But sometimes, we as humans, we get off work, we don't want to watch the kids because we're tired. We worked all day. But, that's just our responsibilities when we decide to have children. Even though I'm tired, I want to go lay down, I need to observe my child, make sure they're doing exactly what they need to do, And so therefore, that gives us the opportunity to correct, if we need to. So
Definitely. One of the things that y'all talked about that I love, let me go back and look at this real quick. Yeah, so dangers of poor routines. Yeah, so my question was, Festus mentioned earlier, you got some folks that are 14 in a 40-year-old body, right? So you have a parent, you may have the parent who is the authoritative parent and can have the conversation and discuss and monitor their kid and see where they're kind of lacking and how to create a solution or a plan to help their child create strong routines. But then you have some parents who essentially they're just uninvolved and they may not even see a problem. They may not even be in the mindset where they're saying my kid has a problem. As long as the general well-being of the kid is somewhat being met, they're fine. So I guess this question is for the kid, that particular kid, right? In that situation where no one's looking out for them, it's just them. How can a kid essentially parent themselves to create strong routines? Does that make sense? How can a kid who has no one to monitor them, to help them, who doesn't have strong routines, where can they go? Who can they go to, right? So so what I'm saying is you have kids who can go to a teacher, right? And say, hey, my parents don't know what they're doing. I know my grades are rough. What can I do, right? So where are those resources outside? And I guess it's kind of like the first question we talked about, but where are some of those resources? Where can kids go to help them find?
Oh man, that's a good question. If there is a kid like that has that strong self-determination and has that intrinsic value for their education, I would say, like you said the answer, go to your teacher. If there's a teacher that they see models those certain qualities in which they're looking for to be more organized and have more routines, go to that particular individual. And it doesn't even have to be a teacher. It can be anybody that they know or aware of that they see demonstrate those qualities, and, just have that heart-to-heart conversation with them and ask them, what are some things that they can do to get better in those said areas. I want to get better at setting routines and structures for myself, setting expectations for myself, carrying out those expectations, and those particular individuals will hopefully guide them and help them, as well as they can talk to school counselors if that's a possibility. Yeah, that's all I got on that one.
That's all good, man. That's awesome.
Or if they go to church, if they have like leaders in a church house, talk to one of those individuals, like a deacon or a pastor or a reverend, somebody like that, or just anyone they look up to. But that's if they go to church.
We're gonna say something?
No, Crawford hit it on the nail. Like, you got church, you might have different like pastors groups. Like our church has the teen group thing, whatever, with Zeke and all them. Or sometimes, man, you can just look around your classroom and look for people who are on track. Like, if I don't know how to do something, like I think I talked to Crawford about some of that. I was like, hey man, I don't get how to do this. But I knew Crawford had to do it. So I went to somebody who was on track, and then he showed me how to do it. So if you see somebody, because everybody think a mentor has to be way older than you. A mentor could be in your same classroom, could be side by side where you can be the same age. And you can be like, hey man, how you do this? He'd be like, all right, you know what? I see your life is going right. I'm going to follow what you do. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to see how you live out and see what you, that's how even in the church, that's how most people get saved, through friends. Because they say friend life going good. And they be like, you know what? I'm going to try what you do.
I really agree with the one that's in the same level as you. I don't know. There was a show that I used to watch called, I'm not sure if you guys heard it. It wasn't too popular. It was called Smart Guy, about a young kid who was in the high school. And I mean, that imagine being a sophomore or junior in high school and you're going to an eighth grader, essentially someone who's in the eighth grade, to be like, hey, could you show me some of those study habits? But you got to think about it. If he went from the eighth grade to the, the 10th grade or whatever, or to, the 11th grade, you must be doing something right? So it won't hurt you to go and talk to that person. So even at your level or sometimes below your level, there's always something to be learned. So I think that's awesome stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and hold. I guess we'll continue this next week. Yeah, continue this topic next week. So folks, thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time listening, please be sure on YouTube, Laddering Your Success, to subscribe. We're also on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. At the end of the month, we'll be having our in-person podcast. We would love for you to take a look and watch it. If you have any questions, please follow us, send us a message. We'll be sure to respond to you. Go to ladderingyoursuccess.com. Take a look at our ebooks and all of our resources, news, blogs, all that great info there. All right. As always, thank you to Daniel Hill, to him be that dude. Thank you to the future doctor, Jamar Crawford, and Festus Omoye. As always, I'm Ole Sharanki. And remember, there are legitimate reasons to not going to college. There are no legitimate reasons to not getting an education. This has been Laddering Your Success, Edu-Steps, and we're so thankful that you came and joined us. See you next week.
Oh, you still there? Well, thank you so much for listening to the LYS Podcast.